welcome to this episode of Spawn Camp, where I've got not blood. Tony, how you doing today?
Wow. I am in full jock form. Blood and I were talking the other day, and I have evolved. Okay. I have not one, but two different protein drinks in front of me this morning. I am sitting in a room with the laundry of all my sports equipment. And I have evolved to the true jock of R for R. I am here, and I could only be better if I were in a tank top right now. I think to really show off the guns, right? How are you doing?
I'm doing good today. It's a good morning. I am awake. I am on time-ish. We're not on time, but I'm on time. At some point, I'm going to write down articles to talk about before we go live.
That would be nice. I do have, so I will say, I have one thing that I didn't think about, that I didn't put on our list, that I would, that I think is kind of, so this is basically straight protein and water.
That sounds
This is like
delicious.
It actually is fantastic. It is watermelon limeade protein. So like I can, because I'm trying to get fit,
Sure.
trying to really like drop some of the chubby cheeks and add more to the strength up in there. And so my I'm working. There was a place where I could get a nutritionist for free, so I'm doing
nice.
that, which was dope. So I'm working with that, and they were like, "You need more protein. Look into this clear protein stuff." And I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Honestly, it just sounds.
And so
like
now I'm
egg
just.
whites.
It's not. It basically, I mean, this tastes like watermelon limeade, and then I just happen to get 20 grams of protein out of it. Like.
After this,
I'm drinking
send
juice
me
over here.
The brand information.
Will
I
do.
too am like I'm trying to shed some specific stuff and build some specific stuff.
I actually, if you don't mind me saying the brand, I can actually show you the
Yeah, go
brand
for it.
because because it's going to happen. So the sampler pack I got gave me this tumbler, which is Animal brand.
Okay.
This is their logo. Yeah, it was like $20 to do a sampler. It is semi expensive because the goal is to like, it's more of a gym style product. But it's really nice, especially if you are someone who has trouble getting your nutrition in.
They've got some nice flavors: blueberry, acai,
Yeah.
pineapple, orange.
Yeah, I had that one last night.
And watermelon limeade. Yeah.
The thing I would say, if you do try these, water them down some more. They are strong.
That doesn't bother me. I'm the person
perfect.
when I use like the Mios and shit like that, I always have to do like 2 or 3 times what it says.
I in high school and college I used to drink the Mio drink straight, which you shouldn't do. Don't do that. Because sometimes I would be so tired in classes that I would need a wake up, and a burst of flavor would work the same as caffeine.
You know what I'm thinking would be really good with this too, because Sky does smoothies and stuff like that.
Yes.
And she had some protein for that, but most protein powders are like a really chalky chocolate milk or vanilla or whatever. They're awful.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the shake is, how can I hide this flavor? You're saying it tastes all right, and it's already
I think it tastes
fruity,
pretty good, yeah.
So she does fruit smoothies, throw a bit of this in it, and be just awesome.
Yeah. It does froth a little extra, so it could end up a little foamy. You just have to wait on it to kind of calm down. It's protein foams. Like that's, but that wasn't the goal of this morning.
Use them for meringues.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's But yeah, so because especially my wife and I were looking at the price of eggs, and it is much cheaper for me to be drinking this than it is for me to be making a bunch of eggs right now, for that exact reason. So it's quite funny how we've roundabout gotten there, but this is an interesting thing.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Blood.
Hello. I wanted to let you know that Tony has an echo on the stream.
I did a thing and then asked you in chat if it was better.
It didn't yeah, I didn't get to the point where I could hear you ask me that yet. One sec.
You're good.
Cool. Cool.
If you want to hang out, that's great. I can turn on the reactives. If not, that's also fine.
I'm fine with hanging out. I don't want to be on camera, but I'm also not likely to stick around for too long.
That's totally
No,
fine.
you're
I
good.
am
I was just
exhausted.
talking. I mean, you probably heard a bit of it. I was just talking
Your
about
protein drinks.
my evolution to the full jock of the group. Yes, that's I've leveled up. I've turned my garage into a workout space.
I just realized
Very nice.
with our current reactive setup, it looks like you two are up front and professional, and then I'm just a slut in the background.
What is
So,
different
not
from normal?
terribly off key.
I started giggling a second ago because I happened to read the titles on, not to spoil anything, but the tier list that we're looking at. Did you look at the tier titles?
Honestly, no, I did not.
Also, they're color coded backwards, but that's fine.
That is. I think you can change the. I'm not sure. You can also make it an alignment chart, which is interesting. But
I can play with those.
Yeah, you could.
I might.
This is why I brought this up.
Yeah, I might record a few segments with this.
We can talk later. I actually was gonna pitch this for some of our Patreon content. Is releasing weekly opinion rankings on things to our Patreon folks.
In character.
I hadn't gotten that far, but that's a good idea.
We've got that string.
It's hard
of
to do when we have so many characters already.
Yep.
That would be so fun.
If you guys haven't subscribed to the Roll for Respawn Patreon, even if it's at a free amount, there's a $1 tier that gets you access to a lot of the content. There will be some more expensive stuff that won't get you access to, and some other things, but $1 gets you access to quite a bit. As we already have a few folks at that level. But you can kind of see, right? I have crowd funds that I post up there that I think you should go and follow, and we'll talk more about those later on in this episode. Actually, it's not going to be all of them, but it is going to be some of the ones I wanted to highlight for this month. So you get a preview of those, and then we're also doing Tony versus the Weeb World. We've got art, blood art streams,
doodles with blood.
Doodles with blood. Thank you. When I said blood art streams, it gave a different picture than what I wanted. But here we are.
Doodles with blood is what the actual scene collection is called, so I'm fairly certain that's just going to be what the name of it is.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah. And you can message us direct. So folks like me who randomly checks the Patreon will find that and then share it with the group, and we'll get folks to respond to you if it's not to me, if it's to somebody else.
Direct communication with us. Yeah. There is cool stuff on there, and it's growing.
Yes. Yeah.
Dope. Anyway. All right. Well, Tony, you took the initiative, and you have a cool thing to talk about here. So let's start with your thing, the creators of color.
Yeah. So if you are in the TTRPG space and you're not checking out Rascal News, they're a really great sort of independent news source. I don't know if you guys know of Rascal. I hope you have, because I am a huge fan of Rascal. And this is a post you can find with them on their free site. I'm actually signing in now because it kicked me out while I was talking. So, here we are. But it is talking about, so February is Zine month, which means small tabletop RPGs are getting kickstarted like mad. If you want to get in at the ground floor of a tabletop RPG and get some cool extras and things like that, for literally the bars are somewhere between $5 and $15 usually. If it's a really big game, $20, whatever, $30. But that's the max at the base level. Like, I do PDFs usually because I get so many games. I don't have shelves for all of the physical games I would like. So I get PDFs, and you can get in at the ground floor of games, support cool game designers, and really see some really cool games. We actually have one that I believe was posted to, is going to be posted to our Patreon. here very, very soon, called Fluff and Fury. And it is a cyberpunk future where the humans have ended the world. We have ended the world, and we have we have transferred our consciousnesses into tiny AI robots that are contained within like teddy bear bodies.
Oh
And
my god,
so,
can I please play Artis?
Uh,
That's a fucking A&I throwback.
okay, that's what I thought. Yes, you could. You could absolutely do that. It uses the Year Zero engine, which is one I've not played before, so I'm
Mhm.
curious to dig into it. It is cyberpunk, so they call it Psy_bear punk, which is a delightful pun. Fucking great. Okay. Uh, and it's like I said, these are all creators of colors. That's actually number 2 on their list. The first one I was able to pull it up, is the Griot anthology. Griot, I'm not sure. And it is a collection of micro games by Black designers.
Ooh.
So the designer of a game will actually play on the Wonderarium here in a few, like a month or two, called Community Radio. They just pushed their 2nd edition. That designer, Quinn Murphy,
Oh, it's
sort
Quinn?
of,
Nice.
That's
yeah,
always one of my
it's
favorite. Like my favorite episodes on Wonderarium are when you have the game designers. Those are always awesome.
So I will not. I do not. Well, I'm gonna try to reach out to Quinn, but I do not have Quinn solidified for this episode. But
But
yeah,
we have their game.
I have Quinn's game, absolutely. I love having the game designers, and I would do that more if I could. It becomes difficult at times, sort of vetting and getting to know, because I have to be able to DM you, and if your DMs are friends only, you have to think I'm cool too. And let's be honest, I'm not that cool.
That's my friend.
Not unless.
Shit about.
Hey, let's be honest. My ego would go through the roof if I didn't talk shit
Don't
about
make me
myself.
fight
So. But yeah,
Threatening
so
violence again. Oh no.
let's see. So the potential table of contents is really, really exciting. It looks like there's a game called Midnight Train Ticket about a group of people at a train station in the 1960s, and the events of the previous 2 days that got them there.
Oh, nice.
So it's sort of a flashback game, which could be interesting. Some of the mini games that I love playing are games you can port over, right? So maybe Midnight Train Ticket is about something completely different. Obviously, I haven't seen the text of the game. It's within an anthology here. Or it might be very broad, where you can use it as, if you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, your party is at a carriage station, what got them there, and you play this game as a mini game for other games inside.
So I love that. My mind took that too, because I love in-person game nights, and
Yeah.
I like doing a thing with it. And I
Absolutely.
just came to the idea of, like, you start the night playing Ticket to Ride. And
Okay.
you build out rails. And then you move into this, and we do the, like, we're here, how do we get here? And then this leads into a train murder mystery game to end the night.
Oh. Okay. Okay. So I have not thought of this before, but I do love the idea of using a board game to create the world building for your game. Right? This actually would be a great use of Monopoly. Also, one of the Kickstarters that I want to shout out that we do have on our Patreon is Black Wall Street-opoly. I think it fully funded. And it is a Monopoly game meant to highlight Tulsa's Black Wall Street, which I grew up just a couple of hours from and never knew until I was actually out here in North Carolina, I think, or just about to. I left the area and then found out about something in my area, and it's something
that's because without going too much about your background and your personal life,
yeah,
you're from Kansas at that time.
Yes, I'm from rural
I grew
Kansas.
up in Oklahoma, and so
Yeah.
I will say the only positive thing that can be said about the Oklahoma education system is there's required Oklahoma history. And so
Okay.
I
Yeah.
did learn about that in school. So it took me a long time to like connect. Everybody's talking about, oh, we've never heard of this. We've never heard of this. Why are we not being taught this? I was like, I was. It's an
Yeah.
Oklahoma specific thing. Yeah.
It
Mhm.
absolutely is. And so bringing that out to a wider mass is one of the best uses for Monopoly that I've ever seen. But you could use Monopoly to create a sort of fallen capitalistic hellscape for one of your games if you wanted to.
can
That
also
would be
just-
really,
Is this
really fun.
is this
The-
just kind of dating back to the fact that you hate Monopoly?
I
I was going to say, if you're going to use it for that, you could just pull out a news.
I am happy to throw shade on Monopoly whenever possible. You give me a soapbox, I'll absolutely crap on
I-
We had a
Monopoly.
story from Tony about Monopoly. Yeah.
I hate capitalism. I love Monopoly.
You're just wrong. But
sometimes it's fun to play the villain.
this is as someone who in fact has played the villain in your game. This is true. This is absolutely true. I was gleeful most of that game. Actually, I was gleeful and terrified because if I messed up, it screwed up the entire setup for your game. And there were chances that had happened. But also in this anthology, to bring us back to what we had here, the Griot anthology, there's a game called Neighborhood Robots in it, which is a solo game. I don't play a ton of solo games because I'm a really, really social person and I spend a lot of my time on my own. So when I play games, I want to play with people. Not everyone's like that. So solo games are great for that scenario. But it is about a community that builds mechs to protect their homes and families. And so I assume part of the goal there is why. And so building up this world, building up this storyline of what drives a neighborhood to need to create steel and metal guardians. I love the idea there. I think that's really, really cool.
That is really cool.
Why does my fucking thingy keep reacting? Do I have a thing coming up? I'm on my
I
phone
really-
right now, my dude. I don't want to be down in my room because it's depressing.
It's all right.
You're good.
If we ever get dead air for a second, mine starts reacting to the washing machine, so you'll see it pulsing.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's quite funny.
I just keep noticing that it keeps flashing, and when I'm not saying anything, I'm just like, what the hell? Oh, so hi, Bright.
Hello, Bright. Thank you for your first. That is actually really cool, and I do recommend everybody check out.
Rev apparently is very quiet.
Well, that's because Bright is mean to me.
That's not at all why that is. It's because Rev is always quiet on every channel for every show that they run.
I should be louder now. For some reason, my volume was turned down. I say some reason. There's actively a plow going around outside, and I can see the bar jumping. I was like, oh, yeah, that's why.
That could be it, yeah.
You did mention earlier this website is really cool, and people should check it out. I will say this article is for subscribers only.
It says that. However, there's a free subscription tier, much
Oh,
like our
beautiful.
Patreon, where you get this.
Dope.
Yeah. See,
Look at
you don't
Tony
have
being
to pay
prepared
to
for this
get this
stuff.
article. I look when you are neck deep in it, and people go, "Hey, come up with something to talk about." I've got shit to talk about. You can just leave the call. I'll talk all fucking day. All right. There's a
Thank you for
reason.
taking over my role today.
No problem, friend.
Also, I do want to point out, too, this is the only episode of R4R going up this week.
Yeah, I became
Holy
a problem.
You're fine.
It's not you.
You are not a problem whatsoever.
There's not a single show on this channel that will fail if only one person can't do it.
Correct. And I would say for this, and this is for any of you out there listening, not doing something is not a failure. Especially when it's a choice, right? Like there is if you're like working to get something done and you do not succeed, I understand that. But if you especially choose not to put something out because it is not up to your standards or it is not good for you, that is not failure.
I feel like I'm
want
being
that to be
attacked.
very
Love
clear.
that.
That was not pointed at you. That is
I know.
pointed at everyone. And in fact, I'm the one that made the call on Wednesday. And so it's a little bit about pointed at me. But sometimes I have to talk to him.
And I led that conversation on Thursday.
Oh, did you?
Yep. Because Darkness was unavailable, and then Blood, we internally are aware of what's going on in your life right now, and then I just quit the temp job that I was doing, and I fucked up my throat in doing that. So Wednesday and Thursday, I was still having a really hard time talking.
All right.
That can be a behind the scenes thing. It was nothing. I was stupid.
But okay. You're good.
But so yeah, I personally wasn't feeling Thursday, and then so it would have just been like me being quiet, and then you and Bright. So as soon as I was on the call with Bright, I was like, "How are we feeling tonight? Do we want to stream?" And then of course this is an off week for the Wonderarium. So yeah, no, it's just us this week. We are blessing you with our presence finally.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's quite funny. I don't know. Like, it's a little bit funny to me, but it's also really, really good that we as a group, I think, do a really good job of being unafraid to take care of each other. Which is one of my favorite things about this group of people is when someone is hurting, because we are first and foremost a group of friends. When someone is hurting, that is the priority, and that is the first thing we will take care of.
I also love that, like, usually the person that's hurting is like, no, that's fine. I'm going to push through and do this. And then it's the rest of the group like, no, we're done tonight.
Nah, you don't get a choice.
We're a bunch of self-sacrificing fools who won't let each other self-sacrifice.
Behind the scenes, this crew is amazing. It doesn't matter how mean everyone is to each other on camera. We are all super sweet and overly nice off camera.
No, you can't tell them that. They can't know this. We have to be assholes.
Sorry to destroy the parasocial relationship here.
No, but this is a perfect transition here because Bright has pointed out, and I didn't realize this. Everyone else has seen this except for me. That Muscle Man Tony Savage is my reactor. Anyway,
I need to get that set up on my
Well, what's
side,
really
too,
great is
I'm-
your shirt is almost the same color as the reactive shirt too.
what's funny is in reality it's not even close.
Oh yeah.
This is a bright blue on my end. It's actually a jellyfish.
Oh, I love that.
I really like it. It's colorful. It's bright. It's fun. This is the world I live in.
Oh, excuse me. I have a thing to talk about.
So, real quick, can
Yes.
I touch? There's like 8 of these games and we got through 2 of them. Can I speed
Oh
on them?
yeah, no, I couldn't look at it, so I didn't know what all was there.
No, you're good. So the third on the list is called Prequel, which describes itself as a tactical game of heroic sacrifice. This is the perfect transition from what we were talking about.
Kind of is.
So it combines a combat system and a set of prompts to tell the story of the characters and the world. It's a one-shot, basically a one-shot tactical combat game, but it includes flashbacks and world building. So it's trying to create this sort of shonen anime battle scene idea where you've got like all of the backstory coming in between the fights, and there's a preview version out. It's really, really cool. So yeah. By the way, I didn't mention earlier, Fluff and Fury is created by Gabriel. I want to say Guerrios or Guerrios. I'm not exactly sure. It's Gueiros, or Weird Place Games. Prequel is created by Ethan Yen and James Quigley. Our fourth one here is Xeno Invasion, which is a reverse Alien game. You are the alien as you go on a rampage through the human world. Apparently, according to this, the art and the layout is appropriately wild, and the mechanics promise quick two-action combat scenes, even when facing dozens of enemies. So it speeds up combat. It keeps things moving. It really is supposed to do that action-y.
I will say, just that description makes me think of the vibe of Eat the Reich.
It does seem a little bit like that. I think Eat the Reich, but so it seems to have
totally different. But
I think Eat the Reich, if it were alien focused, maybe. But yeah, a little bit. One of the really interesting things here is the campaign is in both English and Spanish, and there are some really it. I don't understand this term. Maybe one of you does. I forgot to look it up before we went, but it's Mexico-based Axo stories. I don't quite know what that means, to be honest with you, but I believe it is like indigenous stories would be my guess. So there is some sort of a Hispanic vibe to this. It's not quite present here in this article, and I backed it and forgot. I backed so many games that they're all bleeding together in my brain, so I don't have it on perfect recall right now. So
I mean, that's valid, Tony. You do go and back as many tabletop games as you possibly can get your hands on.
We can literally last night. Let's see. I have one called They Burned. Anyway, I have Kickstarter is 50% of my email inbox right now. I need you to understand. And that's just Kickstarter. That's not crowdfunder.
Have you made yourself any sort of crowdfunding email so that way it can get isolated?
Nope.
That would be a good idea.
That would be really, really smart. Later, if you want to show me how to do that, I would welcome.
You just make an email address that would be,
You can also just make a folder within your email address, and you can allocate anything coming from this specific thing will go to that folder.
That's the way to fix it retroactively.
Yes.
I would need a retroactive fix. I really don't want. But yes, this is a cool thought process that I like. Yeah. Anyway, so to keep it going, because we're on 5 of is it 8? No, 5 of 10.
Oh gosh.
So I'm
There's
trying
so
to
many
keep
of
us
these.
moving. So there's a setting zine called Planet Vesta by Joy Young, and it describes a ribbon world. So a planet that doesn't rotate. So one side is always day and one side is always night. So that means there's a thin strip of the planet that is survivable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this artist is based in Tasmania. And so there's some really cool stuff up for the whole system. So if you're looking at setting a cyberpunk system somewhere, this could be a really great option for you. Salt the Earth. We talked about one Quinn early, Quinn Murphy. This is Quinn Blackwell from Plus One XP. And their game is Salt the Earth, which describes itself as a, quote, ritualistic survival in a broken world.
Wow.
Structured with the traditional GM, who is referred to, you guys are going to love this, as the Doomed Mistress.
That is awesome.
That's really fucking
That sounds
good.
fun.
If I have to change my tag at any point, it's going to be that.
Right? I love this. The characters, as they go, accumulate scars, making them stronger and bringing them closer to the final ending. So your leveling up is actually the scars you get from this.
That's really cool, and that's
yes.
That is the inverse of Call of Cthulhu, where as the game progresses and you get more and more scarred, but it's making you weaker.
Exactly. So I love that. There is a free quick start out on that as well. There's a free quick start out on a few of these. So if you're unsure, or if you've missed the Kickstarter and have to wait until you get to the end of the Kickstarter to buy this, the free quick start may get you a ways. Here is another. Here is a solo or GM-less game, which I've liked. That's become a new trend. Is the solo games have started going, we can do multiple people with this and just call it GM-less, which for me, being a social person, there's so many solo games that are really cool that I don't get to play, that I want to play, but then when it's GM-less, it's awesome because I don't have to GM it. Oh, yeah. And so this game is called Realms, Etria. I'm not sure, is Etria. By Princess Woy. It is much like The Quiet Year or games like that where it's a world-building set. It is a core rule book and then 6, quote, role books, which contain random tables and setting elements for specific countries that offer different flavors. So this game has, like The Quiet Year, if you've got the same number of people, if you've got a group that comes back, you may get the same style of stories over and over. Changing rule books will change this completely for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that really broadens out the stories that you can tell with this game, and I think that's really, really cool. It's the rules involve cards and dice, which is great. I'm not a journaler, so journaling games are a bit of a drag for me. I know they're great for especially writers. Journaling games are awesome. So, and it says, I don't know this video game, but the person who wrote this article says the world reminds them of the video game Sable. Do you guys know Sable?
I'm aware of it. I don't think I've ever played it.
Okay.
Ditto. Like, I remember seeing it and hearing about it, but never actually playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So, next is Universe at Your Door, The Traveler, which I believe is one, I believe was it the first one I put on our Patreon? I believe this is either one I considered for our Patreon or I put on our Patreon. And it is a solo journaling game based on the mechanics of the game Sentinel. And it is about a crew who go on non-violent missions to various planets to research and share knowledge. If I remember correctly, it is, and it actually, I believe you can run it as a group game GM-less, if I remember correctly.
Nice.
So part of the campaign is adding rules to play the game as a group. So there we go. Yeah, and you can actually get the original solo version on itch now if you want. So if you're just like, I don't care about the group version of it, let me just get the game. Done. Sold. It was really, really cool. Go check it out. That is created by Lola Johnson. 9th on our list. We're almost done, y'all. We're almost done. 9th on our list is A Perfect Wife, which has
this
various
sounds
creators.
troublesome.
And it is a horror game. So, let's see. So part of the description described, I don't quite know what the Pontiac or Pontianak, Pontianak, Pontianak is what I'm gonna say. That's probably wrong, but I don't have any guidance on how to read it. So, the Pontianak is a predator. She eats men, he writes. She visits the most cishet male person in the party and tries to draw them into a dark alley. It reads like an uncle warning you before you step out the evening, or a local newspaper article. After all, what is news but horror domesticated?
God, love that. That description is great.
I'm reading that directly from the article by Thomas Manuel on Rascal about this exact game. It is titled A Perfect Wife, the vicious horror zine bringing people together. And man, I don't like horror, and I want to play this based on it. Like, God. Yeah. The last line of this, I think, is very poignant as well, so I'm going to read it. In a similar way, the Pontianak can be domesticated, transformed from a cannibalistic spirit to demure woman through the judicious application of an iron nail to the head.
Interesting.
Wow. Well.
Whoa.
Oh my.
I will say that.
Anyway.
that gives me a different kind of horror vibe. Knowing how women have been treated in this country through the 20s to 50s. That sounds like a lobotomy statement.
Yep. I do believe, not having read this game, but just the vibes that it's giving, I think that it is a horror in that you may take on masculinity getting threatened. And your winning may actually be the horror.
Yeah.
I don't know what role you take. For the record, I don't know what role you take in this game, but
I do like the idea of a game that is making a very specific social commentary where it gets you very excited for the role you're playing, and then as you play, you realize that the role you're playing is not the side that the game wants you to think is the good guy.
Is the problem. Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's some really cool stuff. Obviously, go into it with the right headspace and the right safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please. But, God, that sounds cool. And then the last thing, the last listing on here is a two-pair. One is a solo-based game, and they're both created by Aaron Lim. One is a solo-based game called What Should We Have Tomorrow? It's a solo journaling game about managing your pantry and cooking a week of meals for your loved ones. Very wholesome, very homey. Honestly, a great way to bring this to an end. And then the other one in this pairing is called Ithaca in the Cards. And it is a blackjack-based game that tells the story of travelers on a tragic journey home inspired by the Odyssey.
Oh.
So because it is push your luck, because you're striving to get that perfect number, the story is supposed to spiral towards a breaking point. And then inevitably, I assume when you bust in this game, or when you get, there are probably more mechanics than just blackjack, things are going to hit the fan. So I love a sort of chaotically doomed, like, march toward destruction a little bit, push your luck style something. So that is all 10 of those games. Like so to give you a quick run through, we have the Griot Anthology by various creators and Thought Crime Games. We have Fluff and Fury by Gabriel Guerrios. We have Prequel by Ethan Yen and James Quigley. We have Xeno Invasion by Caligaes, Caligaes, or Axo Stories. Oh, Axo Stories is the name of the publication company. We found that out by reading things. Don't we love that? Planet Vesta by Joy Young. Salt of the Earth by Quinn Blackwell. Realms Etria by Princess Woy. Universe at Your Door, The Traveler by Lola Johnson. A Perfect Wife by Copy Paste Co-op and various authors. Ithaca in the Cards and What Should We Have Tomorrow by Aaron Lim. And like I said, this article is on Rascal. It is free to get. So go check it out if you're curious about anything that I've talked about here today.
That is really cool.
That was a lot of games, but I saw that this week and I went, oh, I've got to do something with that. And I was planning on some posts other places and things like that. But then I popped in here this morning and I was like, heck yeah, this is a perfect time to talk about it.
I have a small one, and then we've got a quick Sports with Tony, and then we've got a fun thing to wrap this off with.
Hell yeah.
So, small topic.
Sports with Tony while Tony's here?
Yeah.
Wild, right?
Dungeons & Dragons live-action TV series as a Netflix series has been announced. With, importantly, Sean Levy as being an executive producer. He was the director of Deadpool and Wolverine, and he's done a few other things, like, very nerdy, very, like, good understanding of the source material type stuff.
Is this... No. Never mind, sorry. I was thinking about so there's supposed to be a sequel to Honor Among Thieves.
Yes, that's also happening.
Matt Mercer and Brendan Lee Mulligan as advising writers or writers. I'm not 100% sure on their role.
I have such mixed feelings on that one. Because Matt Mercer and Brendan Lee Mulligan are going to be heavily involved. but also so's Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Right? But, and then of course there's also Amazon's Secret Level series, which starts with a really amazing D&D episode. So I'm just loving the amount of D&D content that we're getting outside of the gaming space in a way that is more palatable and like easy for people to consume to help draw them into the community.
There's that. So it's kind of like the big boom on anime that happened a couple of years ago. You know how I'm about to date myself real fucking quick. When I was in high school, I was the loser kid sitting in a corner because I had manga and I had anime stickers on my stuff and I had right? Well, then by like 5-6 years after I'm out of high school, that shit is the main fucking thing that everyone loves, and I'm sitting here like, you motherfuckers.
Yep.
You motherfuckers. How fucking dare you?
And yeah, it's doing that same thing right now for D&D and
D&D
space.
it's becoming very mainstream.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is. I am tentative, and so like one of the other things that Sean Levy worked on is at least this most recent season of Stranger Things. I'm not sure how many seasons of Stranger Things he worked on. So there is a level of a little bit of nostalgia bait to this.
Well, he's also done Free Guy, which was a really good.
Okay.
Like
I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Ready Player One, sort of. I'm gonna just throw all the references that I can into a movie, which I appreciate.
This is a perfect example, though. So all of these movies are what I would call nostalgia bait, where Deadpool and Wolverine is itself super self-referential to every comic book person they can fit into that freaking thing, and that nothing wrong with it. But it is baiting on that, like, oh, I love all of these characters. I gotta go see Gambit. I gotta go see this. I gotta go see that. Right? Stranger Things does the same thing. Oh, it's got Dungeons and Dragons in it. It's got the classic Coke. It's got the classic these things. It's got this sort of a vibe, right? Free Guy, absolutely the same sort of thing, as well as whatever the other one, Ready Player One. Ready Player One, the written source material was already like that, so that one's, I would say, a little bit less in that way.
I do have 3 things I can bring up that are really interesting from his filmography. He's done all 3 of the Night at the Museums.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's worked with Steve Martin a couple of times, so Pink Panther and the Cheaper by the Dozen remake.
Interesting.
He did Big Fat Liar. And then, speaking of dating yourself, one of my favorite Disney Channel TV series, he did the famous Jet Jackson movie. So the series, the famous Jet Jackson, was it was about a child actor who, in universe, played a character that was like a super spy / kid secret life type of thing. But the Disney show focused on his life as a child actor. And like his interactions on set and splitting his time with set and school and his work friends and his school friends. And then also because they made spy gadgets for his TV series, he would sometimes borrow them for his like day-to-day life. Or like there was a sleeve device that he used to cheat on a test in high school.
This feels like the pre-Hannah Montana. Is this like?
Oh yeah, this is like
where it's the 2 lives.
The movie came out in 2 lives. It's not that, but the movie came out in 2001.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is
for the record,
late 90s.
Here's the thing. So you are not that much older than I am. I think you are a little bit older than I am, if I remember correctly. But I'm not gonna talk
I'm in my
numbers here on
70s.
stream at the moment. Yeah, you're
You're
75. I'm 73. We're good. But the problem is, rural Kansas. It was actually difficult for us to get cable or internet until I was a teenager. And so that's the 1960s at least. So that set me back a while. No, but like, but so I find this sort of interesting sort of thing happening, especially with Disney movies, where my wife, who is 2 years younger than I am, goes, "Oh my God, all these Disney movies," and I'm like, or shows, and I go, "I've never heard of any of them."
Here's my
There
test.
is a whole.
Have you heard of the DCOM, Up, Up, and Away?
I don't remember what DCOM stands for.
Disney Channel Original Movie.
Okay. All right. I was like, I feel like I've heard that before, but I got stuck on it. Up, Up, and Away? No.
It
I'll
is
be right back, guys.
all right. It is about a family of superheroes, and your POV character is the youngest kid who has just turned of the age that all the family members get their powers, and he didn't. But he's trying to fake it for the family because he doesn't want them to know, because he doesn't want them to be disappointed. And so, like, he sabotages parts of the house to make it look like he's got super strength. And he jumps out of the backyard away from a window, so it makes it look like he can fly, and he does all this stuff. But one of my favorite things about this is the family's weakness. They have a kryptonite-like weakness, but it's aluminum foil. And so there's a scene in the movie where the whole family gets, like, captured by the villains, and they're in an aluminum foil cage with aluminum foil handcuffs.
That is hilarious. You gotta wonder if at some point that was one of those things where they were planning this movie out, and a producer goes, "We have spent far too much. What do we have laying around?" And craft services like, "We got like 37 boxes." And someone's like, "Screw it. They've now got an allergy to aluminum foil, baby. Let's go."
It's so good.
That's the type of thing that this feels like. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that that's the case.
If you have access to Disney Plus, check out this movie. It is genuinely so good.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at. I was pre-looking at our end of. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
I mean that's what I've got. So let's go ahead and we are gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna run a segment of Sports with Tony. So
Yeah. Let's see what I have to say.
we'll see you guys.
What is up, all you marvelous sports fans? It's time for Sports with Tony. Today's topic, one of the sneakiest sports of all time. And I understand this may come as a surprise to some of you that this is a sport. Breakfast. That breakfast is one of the sneakiest sports because the kickoff is always, people would have you believe, at the same time. Right? You need to do it first thing in the morning. You know, you need to get your fiber in. You need to eat eggs and pancakes and cinnamon rolls. And those things are delightful. Don't get me wrong. But you've been buying what Big Breakfast has to sell. All right? You have been buying what Big Breakfast is selling you today. Because breakfast is a meal time of the day. Breakfast is not a food category. All of you breakfast for dinner folks are crying out in the darkness right now. I can hear you. I can hear you crying out that breakfast for dinner is one of the best things because those of you who love it really, really want it, right? You really, really like it. And I'm not stopping you. I need you to know that. I'm not in your way here. Not like Big Breakfast is. Big breakfast is limiting you because breakfast foods are a lie. Eggs are eggs any time of the day. Pancakes are just dessert. And that's fine if you want to have dessert for breakfast. I'm not judging you at all for that. But I need you to know that I know that you know we're eating cake for breakfast today and we're having a blast. Okay? And so when that comes around and I want to eat lasagna for breakfast, I don't need any eyes here. Okay? I don't need any eyes. When I'm knee deep in mac and cheese at 6 a.m. because your boy needs some joy to get the day going. All right? I don't need it. All right? But if we really limit these foods, they become a scarce commodity, and we can sell you breakfast sandwiches, and we can tell you that eggs are good for you, and eggs are bad for you, and bacon is good for you, and bacon is bad for you. And the truth of it is, everything in moderation, right? Everything, not everything, but to its own point, everything has a limit of what you can ingest, of what is good for you and bad for you. And I'm not a doctor, so don't listen to my medical advice because I know absolutely nothing about medicine. Well, I've maybe picked up a few things about Band-Aid usage just from, being a fool myself and having to fix my own hurts. But that's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is once again about how you are restricting yourself in a way that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what you eat in the morning. And it doesn't matter if you're one of those people that's queasy in the morning and you're going, oh, this breakfast conversation isn't for me. That's fine. But if you're not having breakfast foods later in the day, then you are still restricting yourself in a way that you shouldn't be. You are limiting yourself. You need to open up your mind to all the food possibilities of what could happen. If you want to have pancakes at lunch, go for it. If you want to make a Dutch baby with dinner, do it. If you want waffles at 2 a.m. mixed, if you want chicken and waffles at any time, and I feel like most people would find with chicken and waffles at any time. That's one of the few, I think, anytime foods that folks that you can have is chicken and waffles, actually, weirdly enough. But if you want oatmeal for lunch, but I feel like oatmeal is slightly forbidden for lunch, and oatmeal may be terrible for some of you. I actually kind of like oatmeal, for the record. I like oatmeal. I like my overnight oats. I like having a simple breakfast sometimes, and I like things that fill me up and tide me over. And so I avoid the super sweet breakfasts usually. But what I do like is oats. It's really, really great. Especially when you spice them up. You add some chia seeds in there. You add some protein powder. You really get the gusto going. That's a great time. But I'll eat that anytime. I am not restricted. I'm living out here in 3008. And I need you to join me. Because it's freeing. It's freeing to be able to say, hey, I really want this chicken fried steak at 6 a.m. Oh, I really want this or that. I want, salad for breakfast. I really want whatever it is you want. No one's time restricting you except you and the marketing you've been sold. You can have orange juice any time of the day. Did you know that? Did you? But they don't. When they're saying, hey, have this meal for lunch, it's part of a balanced lunch. I never see a cup of orange juice there. No, because marketing wants you to believe it's a breakfast thing. Because they can hike up the price. And because apparently they want you to drink it when you have the most interaction with toothpaste, which is a wild interaction to me. Like, orange juice has been limited to breakfast and to drinking for some reason. To mixed drinks a lot of times. It's been, parties, juices, things like that, right? Why? Orange juice is delightful. I mean, most fruit juices are delightful, and don't drink nothing but fruit juice. But if you're craving some cranberry or pineapple or whatever, go get it. If you're craving baked beans at 2:47 in the morning, you shouldn't come home to your significant other or wake up and do this and have your significant other go, is there something wrong with you? They should go, hell yeah, get those baked beans. That's good protein, that's good fiber, and honestly, it's a pretty dang good meal choice. But we're not ready for that conversation in today's society. So here I am to make sure you understand that the first sport we talk about is what people think of as the most important meal of the day. That breakfast foods are in fact a lie. And I will beat this drum until the drum breaks. That has been Sports with Tony. See you later.
I have audio now, and Tony and Blood have audio now.
Oh,
really good.
wow.
I got really sweaty from my ranting about food, and so I've changed shirts back to this.
We're just going to go
And
with
lighting,
that.
and Ramona's gone.
Well, yes, but she's over there. She flits in and out. You know. And I have eaten all of my baked beans.
So now we've got our special segment for this week. This is a fun one that Tony suggested, and we'll probably do more of it.
Hell yeah.
But this is going to be a TTRPG tropes tier list.
Hell yeah. Say that 5 times fast.
No.
Oh my gosh, no.
Okay. First trope up for us to do is the amnesiac backstory.
Oh. I think it's decent. But I could go. Let's see. I have some notes, but it could be easy to love. Mm-hmm. I'm in that range. We're positive-ish.
Yeah. Like if I could drop it right in the middle, I probably would. The campaign I'm currently running for my home game did start with an amnesiac sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blood and I.
I'm currently playing an amnesiac in a campaign that Tony is running.
Yes. Which is great, but it also puts a lot and Blood and I have talked this over. There's nothing wrong with this in this scenario, but it puts a lot on your GM of like, hey, you have to now create all of the backstory and all of the intent, and it has to be something that I'm okay with without all of you have to have many, many conversations and lots of trust built. I do actually.
Honestly, yeah, because of the amount of trust and effort that has to go into the back end of it, I think B tier, I have some notes for it. Just because it's one of those things where with the right table and the right group and everything going well, it can be really good. But without all of those things lining up, it can be so bad.
I honestly, I would even drop it. I talked myself into dropping it all the way to possibly problematic.
Yeah.
Because I think it could easily turn problematic.
Mm-hmm.
It could.
Right?
100% it could.
If you don't have the safety tools conversation with your GM, how likely is it that there is some trauma? Because amnesia is oftentimes caused by some sort of trauma or issue. What happens when
I got shoved inside of a mirror. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm totally fine.
My characters all made a deal for it.
But
nice.
if you say have an issue with fire or with burning, and the amnesia comes from your family dying in a house fire, that's a problem.
Yeah. Blood, what do you feel? Where are you putting it?
I don't have the thing in front of me, so now let me pull that up.
Yeah.
There it is. Mercedes up my face. I know. I see. I love you. My dog is being extra because that is what she do. I'd go somewhere mid-grounds because it could be problematic, yes, but if you get the right ingredients, it also could be so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I absolutely love the story and the background and everything that Tony has crafted for Renal. It's so intriguing, especially with the point that we are in the story that he's letting us tell.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, we are 1 to 2 sessions from ending that campaign. That's the point we're at of the story.
I think middle
Yeah.
of the road's great for it because it's locking it in as it can really swing wildly either direction. So up
Yeah,
next
I
is
can see
the
that.
animal companion.
That's a slam dunk. I think that's an easy
Is it?
dub.
Is it?
I-
I personally,
Yeah.
I personally would not put it higher than A, and I don't even
Mm.
like it being that high.
I will say there is, and I actually have had groups do this, and
Mhm.
I dislike it. Actually, it happened in a game that Blood and I were in, where
We've been
I
in a
had
lot of games.
familiar. I had a familiar, and because familiars don't technically they die, but they don't die.
Mhm.
There's some weirdness to it. The GM kept killing the familiar, and it became like a joke for the party that I was like a masochist, just leaving this Fey being to die over and over and over again, and that I didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, and
It's not
I
great.
feel like the animal companion trope is always followed with there's a party member who hates the animal, or we forgot the animal, or the logistics of there's so many baggage tropes that go with it.
I mean, we very quickly in that campaign and in a couple of other campaigns that I've been a part of. Not by my fault, by the way. We became like a gaggle of idiots who had like 30 fucking animals because we had a ranger who was Beastmaster,
Mm-hmm.
who also bought a bird. We had a familiar through Tony's character who also picked up a beagle because I accidentally cursed it.
Yeah. The beagle was hooked to a hive mind that was trying to eat the entire world.
Oops. Then from there, I had a little mouse that I would use for reconnaissance because I had animal messenger, and
Mhm.
they would go give messages if we were in like different sides of the city, and then come back to me. And then we had the horses. It just and the Pojin, which was a porcupine pigeon crossbreed.
So, what rank are you two feeling for this one then, for animal companions?
I think it is easy to love.
Mhm.
It is
but
also easy to be too much.
It is. I mean, I think that there is a level of like I'm seeing a scenario where all of these can go south.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I think we have to sort of take the average. And I think in most games, the animal companions are an easy source of wholesomeness and comedy and love. And
That's
I
totally
think
fair,
that's
yeah.
an easy to love. Yeah.
Yeah, great. All right. This is one I've got experience with a lot of these. I don't have any table experience with body swapping.
Yeah. I do. And I'm not a huge fan of this one. I'm not a huge fan of this one. I think it is possibly problematic on average.
Absolutely.
But could be straight to jail.
So here's the thing. A lot of these we're mostly probably going to all agree that they can be really fun, but if this happens, it goes down. This is the other way around. I think this one is usually going to be bad, and in those very few everything lined up paths, can be great for a table for a session.
Yes.
Yes.
So in fact, I will tell. Same game with all the animals. I actually I did not like my character in the game we were playing, so I actually sacrificed my character. The GM decided that one of the people who died in the combat was getting revived for some reason. I had talked with him about getting rid of my character, and the party chose my person. And I said, "Hey, I don't want my."
We flipped a coin. The coin chose your character.
I was literally telling them, "Hey, you should pick this other person," and they were like, "We don't know." I was like, "All right." But anyway, I should have been more insistent. Older me knows now that I'm I should have above board said to the table, "Hey, I don't want to play this character anymore. Let me die. I don't care what your reasoning is, what your narrative is. Don't do it." And I should have just said that. I was not yet in my journey at that point.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
There's also the
But-
fact that even though we technically resurrected you, it was just your body and something else wound up inside
Yeah.
of you, and we ended up
Well,
killing that thing.
Because of the conversation I'd had with the GM, which part of the reason that I wanted to get rid of that character was the inherent racism in this game, and the way many races were being portrayed. I then got locked into the same body and the same racism ties that I wanted to get rid of anyway.
See, that's
which
a
was
really.
problem.
I don't know anything else about this table, but that's a really problematic world building anyway.
Yes.
It was the whole thing that after the table stopped, we had a long discussion about how it made us all feel very, very uncomfy. Just not with the DM because we didn't play with him anymore.
That sounds familiar.
This is also a GM who used their game to process through their family religious trauma, and that's a straight to jail
Yeah.
as well. So we found a way
Beautiful.
out of this game, and yeah, there's a lot more to it. I don't want to get too far into it. but yeah.
So
It's
on
a dark
topic,
road. We
on
don't need to
body
go there.
swapping, are we wanting potentially problematic or belongs in jail?
Potentially problematic. Just because there is that very, very small sliver of a chance that it could go okay.
Mhm.
If you have the right table and the right people.
Let me look at this real quick. What? Here's what I'm thinking about is I think something in this group belongs in jail, and I'm just looking, and I don't see anything that I think belongs in jail. Maybe Edgelord later on.
There
Edgelord
are a
definitely
couple that I
belongs in
think
fucking
do.
jail.
There are a
Okay,
few
cool.
that
I
yeah.
just
Don't
I
worry,
just don't
it's going to
wanna
have
set
something
our floor
in it.
too high
Right.
because I think this is one of the worst of the bunch. So
In fact, I'm gonna jump up the one that I absolutely think is, and that's Murder Hobo.
God fucking yes. Just straight to fucking jail.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Now, if you're playing a one shot or something like that where the whole table is in on, hey, we're going to be assholes and we're going to kill everything, great. But there is no long continuity game that can be sustained in that way that will be satisfying for everybody at the table. Because I can already tell you, your GM, who is doing all the world building, for you to go and murder everybody, they're not having fun with that. And unless the whole party is also murder hobos, everybody else is equally going to be getting frustrated because they're going to be trying to do social things or follow quests or do whatever, and then you just go and stab the guy they're talking to. Always bad.
I can see that. Yeah, there are very rare times that it is done properly, but I think that is by far the exception to the rule. Like I've heard there's a phrase that I hear semi often in some of my podcasts, and it is the exception that proves the rule. And I think that fits this one really well. Where every once in a while you get something that's all right, but it is the exception that proves the rule, not breaks it.
Yeah.
So this next one then is the Burned Village / Dead Parents. I mean, it's a trope for a reason. It's in here because it's used a lot. I think with reason, this can be really cool. In fact, the first campaign that I ran for Sky and Darkness, I used that backstory for the BBEG. In his mind, he was a hero that was going to save the world from the trauma that he went through. Which I thought was a really fun twist on this, because we get a lot of player characters that have the, like, oh, my parents died, or this or that, or I have this tragic, awful backstory, and so I'm going to go be a hero. And that was his motivation as well. But it was a show of, like, how you can twist that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool, though. Personally, I don't have any problems with the whole, like, dead parents and stuff like that, as long as you don't use it as a crutch in your story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it comes from. I think there's a combo of these that I think are really sort of problematic when paired together, and I have trouble separating them, and because I often see the Burn Village Dead Parents into the
Edgelord.
where is it? Edgelord, thank you, into the Edgelord, which then becomes the Murder Hobo, and then turns into PvP.
Yeah.
And it's almost a pipeline.
I can absolutely see that.
So I have trouble separating them personally.
I wouldn't put it really any higher than B. I have some notes.
I can see that.
I feel like it is on its own pretty neutral, and as you said, it can go real heavy, real dark. It can lead to some fun stuff. I don't think it very often pulls up very far, but I don't think it's on its own bad enough to be lower than this.
Yeah.
I could get with that.
And then you kind of touched on something similar to this, which is the corruption arc.
Yeah, I will say...
I love a good
Yes.
corruption arc.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yes. I think when done properly, there's a speed aspect to this where you can't have somebody just take a heel turn out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, because people don't remember this well, if you're playing for 3 years, like you can't slow. You have to give like flags to your other player members. You have to do something with the GM to specifically like set it off and really show people what you're doing. But when done, I think it can be done amazingly, and I think on average it's all right.
Yeah.
I had a... Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
So I had a Vampire Masquerade campaign that I was running. Well, not I was running, but I was playing in back in like college, right? So this is actually where I got the character Willow from. Is I originally made her for this, and very slowly Willow was becoming this. It started off with her maker and the crew being contracted for something or another. I can't remember all the exact specifics, but either way, it had a lot to do with the Masquerade and people within the Masquerade abusing and all that stuff. Not like in a negative way, but like bringing light to those issues. Because this table was actually really fun to play with. But no, so Willow slowly had this turning point throughout the gameplay where I very much became Willow rather became the pessimist, and if no one else wants to do it the way I want to do it, fine, I'll do it behind your backs. And I talked so long to the GM at that table, making sure this was okay and making sure that, you know, I'm not stepping on any toes, and talking with other players, making sure that I was being subtle enough to where they couldn't exactly guess what was going on, but they were also still okay with what was going on. And so that was a really fun thing for honestly everyone at the table, because I remember after my big reveal of getting sick and tired of them interrogating this person who wasn't giving us anything nicely, Willow then went through and they had some like mental power to show illusions and stuff like that, and they just instantly like went off and set this dude into a fucking psychotic spiral, and everyone else is sitting here like, oh my god.
I do really like that. I do think you touched on one of the risks, though, which, like, you mentioned that you talked to your party and your DM or your GM and all that. Really good, really important. I still think this is a really high-rated one. I love it, but I do think it has some risk of, like...
It does.
If a person just starts doing this and doesn't communicate with the group, it can be iffy. But I still think this is absolutely either easy to love or greatest of all time. It's right up there.
It's really high up there, yeah, for me. I adore the corruption arc, just because I also like my dark stories whenever I can deal with them.
Mr. Wildit?
I mean, can get down with the corruption arc. You know, I- they're not bad. I don't know that I'd put them super high, but I wouldn't put them super low either. A mid to a mid good is somewhere in there for me.
Well, what's better than a corruption arc than a redemption arc?
I'm a sucker for a redemption arc. I am a huge sucker
Yeah,
for a
that's
redemption
fair
arc.
too.
I love redemption arcs so much. I even enjoy them when they're not good.
That's yeah.
Like the whole trope. And a show that is a really good example of both of these, and specifically both of these in one character, which was really cool, but also independently. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the Netflix series.
Yeah, Catra.
So Catra has a really good redemption arc. Glimmer, or Glitter, Shimmer.
Glimmer.
Thank you. I had it right the first time.
You're talking about the first princess, right?
She has
Glimmer.
a really good corruption arc and redemption arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with her aunt or whatever.
Yeah. Thank you, Bright. You're too slow. We already got the answer. Redemption arcs are amazing, and I straight to S for me. Greatest of all time.
Yeah, I think it's an easy slam dunk here. So I could go for greatest of all time.
Moving on then to Crossing the River.
Real quick, so ironically, I backed a bunch of those games in the Rascal list, by the way. While we were talking about them, I got an exciting update from one of them. I just had to. We can go back to this thing. I just wanted to sort of touch base on that because I thought it was really funny.
So I think Crossing the River is a really good one. I would tie that also with The Locked Door. Of like, there's a barrier in front of the party that in the real world and conceptually is probably pretty easy to bypass or get around or whatever.
Yeah.
But for some reason is always a really hard sticking point for TTRPG groups.
I could see that. I personally, as a player, I love these.
Mm.
Because what I can do with them is be the most creative person at the table, and you know I'm a sucker for that. So in one of my home games, literally last week, we were headed into a dark temple that had been corrupted by the influence of a demon through a portal. Long story short, I was playing a duck person. And the mallard boy that I was playing has a sort of shiny green reflective head.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I was going to try to communicate with this tree, this corrupted tree that was attacking us. Because the easy answer to this problem was fight, destroy the tree, right? Kill the tree.
Right.
Done. I didn't really want to. So I pitched to the GM this whole world lore of there is a wives' tale where plants can speak to each other through mottled colorations of chlorophyll. So sparkles and shines of green would hold different meanings. And my mallard boy was going to try to replicate this. And I fucking knocked it out of the park, y'all. And the GM liked this enough, they changed the entire world around this idea. But like it is something where you're presented with these easy problems, and you're like, okay, I would like to cross this river. Okay, well, to cross this river, we're going to I don't know, build a blimp out of a puffed mushroom that grows along the banks that only sprouts this time of year.
So I have a really specific from a recent home game. Our party, we had a lot of rope, so we made a sort of tightrope thing, and 3 of the party members made it across. Our player who plays a Warforged was not available that night, So the
Yeah.
DM had him in like sentry mode, where he was kind of just following us,
Yeah.
and specifically following my character. So we knew we couldn't get him to do the tightrope because one, he was too heavy, and two, he wouldn't have the like acrobatic ability
Cognitive
in
function.
that mode. So my
Exactly.
character, being the next smartest person in the party, was like, okay, get everybody across, including the barbarian, the Goliath barbarian.
Oof.
And then we'll just tie a rope, like detach the ropes at this end, tie them to the Warforged, and have the barbarian pull them across. Now I still need to get across as well, so I'll lash myself to the Warforged. I'll be underwater for a bit, but he's going to yank us right out. It's going to be fine. Was the plan. Except that the river was very deep, very fast, and very
the
silty.
wording was the plan in this scenario.
Yeah, it was very
It does
deep,
a lot
very
of heavy
fast, and very silty. So the barbarian starts pulling, and the Warforged instantly drops to the bottom, which we expected, but then gets stuck in the mud. And then there's like 4 to 5 rounds of my character just drowning, tied to another character for the player who's not even there, as my party is like trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? And they're holding conversations of like, okay, let's come up with a new plan. Let's try and figure this out. And the whole time I'm just like, guys, I'm actively drowning. We don't have time for plans.
Please tell me someone cut the rope.
I don't remember. Oh, he was able to eventually get it close enough to the bank that the second rogue in the party, because I'm playing a rogue, was able to reach in and cut the ropes tying me to the Warforged.
So to bring us back to the original conversation, because I've sort of thought more about it as we go. These problems are sometimes a really great way to showcase the party's creativity. But if your party doesn't do that, it just becomes a time suck.
Yeah.
Or it becomes a way to like punish them for not being in the world.
Personally, I was thinking I have some notes for it, because it is just, it feels like it is a tool. It is absolutely neutral, and it's how it ends up interacting with the party and the table that determines how it lands. I don't think it itself leans hard enough either direction.
See, and I would say that most of my experiences with it were less than stellar, because usually you end up with scenarios like, oh, the party tried to pick the lock but never checked if it was open. Picking the lock, you're gonna turn the fucking doorknob. Like, you're just gonna.
Yeah.
You're like, that should be a given, but the GM has decided not to, and the players thought like there were too many assumptions in these basic scenarios that they're not described well. Yeah.
Blut?
Bright does say, didn't we do this with the fight in Octet too? I don't remember a specific scenario here.
There was quite literally a scenario where you guys used a rope to get across a river where there was a bridge.
Yeah.
No one claimed that anybody in the Octet was intelligent.
Jim tries to be, but you know.
He was also stuck herding a whole bunch of fucking psycho cats.
So potentially problematic for that one?
That's where I would put it. I could see it being a true neutral, but I shade it more towards the negative.
Driven by revenge.
Oof.
I think for NPCs and villains, absolutely. I think for PCs, almost never.
Can we make a rule here, because I think we've broadened this out so much. I think when somebody created this, I believe that they're talking about 4-player characters.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Like,
okay.
I
just wanted to
feel
be
like
on that
as a
same page with
GM, totally, you should have revenge-driven characters. That's really cool.
Yeah.
As players, I don't like using the term never, but pretty much never.
Yeah.
Because it also kind of tips into that edgelord, murder hobo kind of mindset.
Yeah.
I think driven by revenge, easy goes in one of the bottom 2 tiers.
I would not put it in straight to jail. I would put it potentially problematic, because it is a good basis for a redemption story.
Sure, yeah.
And
If
when
it
done
can go
like that, I think
direction.
it is stellar. So I don't think it merits straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
But I do
Yeah,
think most of the time it's difficult.
On that note, it
Yes.
does. I do really like the twist on this that I've heard of somebody like playing a revenge-driven character. If they're hunting the guy that killed their family, and they're gonna pay him back. And when they finally track the guy down, the whole party's like, "All right, we're gonna fight this guy." And he immediately pulls out his coin purse. He's like, "Hey, thanks. You took care of that. Here you go." And they're like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I said I was gonna pay him back. He killed my family for me."
He was a hitman. He just had to run before I could pay him.
Wow.
That's another really fun twist, but like I think that's it. That leads us into the Edgelord, which I think is only
to jail.
good in one situation, which is for parody. If you're playing
Yes.
an Edgelord
yeah.
where the joke is that you're an Edgelord, absolutely. But if you're trying to, I'm Batman, I'm dark and gritty, and I'm gonna pout over here and be all alone. No, fucking go away. Get off my table.
I think for
Yeah.
this, I think if there's only one scenario in which it's good, it's straight to jail. Yeah.
That is valid.
Escape from prison. I also used this in my current home game.
I
Straight to
honestly have nothing wrong with an escape from prison just because there are so many fun possibilities for why the fuck you guys were in prison.
Can I
Tony
make
has
this
a
funny?
hard disagreement.
Can I make this really funny? I believe this one belongs straight to jail.
I fucking hate you.
I think for the bit we have to put this one in straight to jail.
Why?
I think that regardless of how we value it, escape from prison being in belongs in jail is funny. We can talk about where it should go, but I think it has to reside in belongs in jail despite what we create for the bit.
Where do you think it
That's
belongs?
right. I am stuck with these two idiots.
I think it's easy to love, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
think it really very much oftentimes goes with the redemption style arc and a lot of the really cool, fun things.
Well, and I have right behind it as a trope. I'm going to put these together of you meet in a tavern, and I feel like there's a lot of discourse of like tables being tired of these two openings. But I think that they're overused for a reason, which is that they're both really good, generic. I need to get a group of 4 to 8 people together who have no other reason to be together, so they meet in these circumstances. And I think they're both so amazing for the amount of freedom that they give you to take unrelated characters and make them be together.
Right? Like, I am exhausted by superhero movies. But I am exhausted by superhero movies because so many people love superhero movies that they keep frickin' making them. In that same way, like you are exhausted by The Tavern because it works so well that we keep doing it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think personally both up there.
Oh.
Blood?
But there's also those are both really good ways to introduce new characters. They don't even have to be like where the campaign starts, but like if you have someone you need to introduce to the company or to the party, those are really good neutral points where you can add people in. You were paid to go break somebody out of jail by a mysterious contractor. I mean, ta-da, go find your new fucking campaign partner. Go do the thing. Go grab it for me.
I love it. The next one, I'm not sure what they were saying with this. It just says Fate/Destiny.
I think this is the grand idea of like, you are chosen by the universe to be the heroes of everything. You were fated to be in this place.
Okay, yeah,
me,
with
your
that in
villain,
mind,
right? Like,
I have personally the feeling of this that we were just talking about a lot of groups have with the escape from prison you meet in a tavern. But I think the difference is the chosen one trope One is just bad for TTRPGs because it selects a main character.
Yes.
And two is already so overused in other forms of media that we don't need it in this one.
I don't need Link from Legend of Zelda in my tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
This is true. But I do think the poster did a specific thing in not calling it the Chosen One trope.
Right.
They called it Fate/Destiny, which can apply to the whole party.
It can. It still gives me that same distaste.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
not the hugest fan of it. I'm not arguing for it to be
Right.
top of the thing, but I am just sort of weighing out and
For
and
sure.
sort of trying to make sure
I feel like potentially problematic.
I
think if your
see that
table is
poten-
having fun with this trope, great for you.
yeah.
Not my thing.
I lean towards I have some notes, but
Sure.
it's borderline between the two, so I could easily be swayed either way.
Blood?
I'm in the I have some notes point
Awesome.
just because there is a potential that if you had this company or this group together like long enough and you want to start off with like some epic story, that is a good point to start it on, like them getting a prophecy of their group doing a thing.
Mhm.
But there's
What's
some notes we gotta go over first.
There is an argument. There is an argument that every time loop story is fated
That's fair. Yeah.
because you are stuck in a time loop until X happens or Y happens.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever result ends up happening with the group must have been what inevitably the arc was headed towards, right?
Well, and realistically, the way that plays for anybody not aware of the time loop is that that thing that resulted is the only thing that ever happened. It is the fact.
Yes.
Fair.
So
The next one, personally, I think is super easy. S tier, greatest of all time. Found family.
yeah, some of the best
Absolutely.
moments I've ever had in a game were found family moments.
Not
I've
pull out
talked about on our stream that same really terrible game that we were in. We took one session away from the GM and just insisted we were doing sort of like
Really talking
a
about
hangout, camp out, and I had envisioned my character as quietly an angry romantic a little bit, and so we were waxing poetically about the possibility of love.
with pierogies.
And it with pierogies and lots of alcohol. And so it's this drunken love conversation that I will
I
always hold
love
right in
that.
my heart.
I also think that this specific trope has a really fun sub-trope that I think would be really cool to do with our group, which is the harem anime, where you've got the protagonist, the main character, who's like leading a group, and they go and they just keep collecting companions. And whether there's romantic intentions on either end doesn't even matter to the story. They're traveling, and okay, I guess you're coming with us too, and oh sure, I guess you can come along too. It's Journey into the West, or Journey to the West. I think is so fun and would be really cool for a TTRPG.
Could be, yeah. I don't have a ton of thoughts on that one.
Well, it's because we need to watch more anime with you.
Apparently, yeah. Look, I'm trying. Okay, I do need to schedule another filming session for Tony versus the Weeb World, but
We all know that I have so much time. Tell me when you want to record anime with me, Tony.
Also,
I actually was going to have that conversation after filming here, but whatever.
Shield Hero.
Yay.
We have to
Shield
finish the last episode of the show we're currently watching.
Yeah.
Though.
Next, Grumpy / Sunshine. So that's the angry character partnered with the really sweet character.
Absolutely, do it every fucking time. Let me have my sweet feels, you motherfuckers.
We have actually done this in multiple sort of games, where we tend to do it grumpy / dumb Sunshine.
Yeah.
It did the initial game, right? I feel like Boston Nash was our
Yeah.
grumpy Sunshine, right?
Absolutely.
The fight in Octet Brett's character was definitely psychotic Sunshine, but Sunshine. I don't know who the grumpy pairing to that was. It might have been me.
I was
but
going to
I
say
don't
Jim
know.
or Stitch.
No, I was not talking about Bowl. I was talking about Vampire the Masquerade.
You said Brett Noctet.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I meant.
So
Vampire.
yeah, for Masquerade, absolutely Brett and you.
Okay. Which this may be just Brett and I, and I'm Sunshine and Brett is Grumpy, which is hilarious given who we are as people.
No, because very much the opposite with the Vatan Octet, which all of you fucking pronounce wrong.
I'm sorry.
I say
Maybe our
Vatan.
GM should say it more, so we have it right.
Vatan Octet. Anyway, with the Vatan Octet, it was very much Bowl and Stitch
Mhm.
playing
I
off
can see
each
that.
other. And I was
This
just
was
waiting
sort
for
of. I would push back a little bit on that one,
Mhm.
and it's more of a Dumb and Dumber dynamic, where you have one who is chaotic dumb and one who is like somewhat smart, somewhat dumb.
Bright's about
like,
to drop a pairing. I will say, we earlier mentioned the Edgelord has one exception. It has two. If the Edgelord is a part of this pairing, where you get a Superman Batman, it can play well. And so, like, if I could chain a copy of Edgelord onto this one, it would sit wherever this goes. As high as it goes, I could put Edgelord attached specifically to this, separate from Edgelord on its own.
Thea and Selena is, by the way, this is what Bright was going to
Yeah.
drop on us. Thea and Selena, it is, I think, the thing we were overlooking there.
Yeah.
Because, one would drop the sort of mopey darkness.
Yeah, no. So my Selena was definitely the edgelord of that campaign because of her backstory. Both of you gave me such yummy, traumatizing backstories. And then there was Darkness, who was just like, yeah, no, my dad's a god.
Oh no!
Did you not ever
yeah.
get that?
I got that her dad was a cult leader. That
Yeah.
was what I
No,
understood.
Samar. Yeah, no,
Oh, I
her
forgot.
he was a god.
I don't think I ever put that together.
Yeah.
But that makes
Yeah, no,
sense.
her dad was the god that the cult was following.
Nice.
Okay.
So for this, are we going to go top tier or A, easy to love?
Top tier. Top tier. I need the top tier. That's fine if you want to go lower. I, in my heart, know it's top tier.
I think it's top tier
I'm
too, so
back and
Tony's
forth
opinion
on
doesn't
it.
matter.
Okay. I was. This was another borderline for me, where it was
Sure.
top tier / easy to love. So if you guys are both top tier, I'm solidly there too.
All right. Next up is the Guild Hall.
I've done this before as a GM, and I did not have a great amount of success with it.
Yeah, I don't have strong
it's
feelings
sort of-
on it.
Yeah, I think it's lackluster. I don't think it's bad.
Yeah, I don't
but
think it's
I think
one
it's
of the.
lackluster.
I think that you would have to struggle to make this end up bad, but I think you would also have to really work hard to make it be exciting.
Yeah.
Exactly. And people treat it as just we're playing a bunch of one shots instead of a big campaign. And maybe that's the tone you want.
I will say
could
if
be an
if the
easy neutral
group
here.
wants that tone and potentially even the freedom to change up their characters multiple times through a campaign but still be able to come back, this could be
Yeah.
a fun way to handle that. Of all right, here's the guild roster. Every week we need 4 of these people. That could be an interesting play type.
I feel called out because very much I was going to lean into the guild hall kind of thing with the Vatan Octet, very specifically with James of the guild, and then him bringing Stitch into the guild.
Did you just call Jim James?
Yeah, she big named him.
Yeah.
They
You
big
just
named him.
government named my character.
I did.
Damn.
Now, to be fair, Tony and I did not suggest that it was bad, just that you would have to work hard to make it good. And I don't think that's beyond you.
I had very big plans. I still have very big plans if we end up picking my. Just
You-
saying.
You say if. I've been there for a lot of the background conversations. Right now, I think yours is still front runner.
Okay.
I don't know. We will see.
But I keep also doing this thing of they're just probably making me feel good.
So then we've got the hidden backstory. Now, because we're working under the assumption these all relate specifically to the PCs, what I think this is referring to is when the player is intentionally keeping things about themselves, about their character, secret from the rest of the party.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. This is edgelord to me. I hate this, to be honest with you. And I have done this in a very specific way that I think works with the Vampire the Masquerade game, where the hidden backstory is that I'm the villain and I'm working with you constantly. But outside of that, all it does is block other players from engaging with you and isolate you from the group.
And I think the alternative, singular good way to do it is if you, the player, go, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is where my character's coming from. However, he's going to lie to you and try and keep this all a secret. And, like, so that way the party knows that there's something they can poke there and they can get some interaction. But otherwise,
I think
yeah.
just because it's still stuck in my head so recently, the way Bright was going about it was very, very nifty.
Mm-hmm.
And even
Are you
there's
telling us
more.
that Bright has a hidden backstory?
Huh? Yeah.
Is this the secret Vatan Octet like lore episode?
I guess so. I don't fucking know.
Apparently.
You don't know the tier system. In the most recent game I DM'd was Baton Octet, so that's where my brain is going.
Love it.
But no, because I was doing very, very good and very interestingly with the backstory that they have for Selena.
So in that case, I'm thinking potentially problematic.
Potentially problematic.
I think it can easily be done well. I think it's regularly not done well.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Here's one. This one's really obscure. I don't know if you guys will have heard of this one before. It's the Horny Bard.
So I'm going to be honest. I've literally never actually experienced this.
Yeah?
I've never had this happen. It's an online meme, but I have never, in my 20-something years of playing, had this be a thing.
You are lucky.
So
I've had it at multiple tables.
There are ways to do it respectfully. Survivor was a way I did it respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to fuck
Survivor
anyone.
was not horny.
Bitch. I literally propositioned Lauren's character. She told me no.
Okay.
I told her my day.
We can talk about that person's character later because there's a reason I sweep that away. But anyway.
I have had players run this, do this at my table, and I've had like players do it at the table where I was at, and I think this is one that, like, with everybody's consent and, like, in certain light can be really fun and can be done well. I think the trope exists because it is usually bad.
Yeah.
Also, the idea of putting it on the bard, I think, is part of what makes it really bad. Because the whole thing with the bard is that they are manipulating people and they're doing all that sort of stuff. So, I'm super horny all the time, and I can make people do whatever I want.
Oh god. Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm
Yeah.
mute real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally fair. While they're gone, just a weird little guy.
Weird Little Guy is greatest of all time. Weird Little
Oh, yeah.
Guy is
Absolutely.
premier.
We've had weird little guys in almost
And every time it's good.
Yeah.
I would say.
Arguably, Rick was a weird old guy.
By the
Bull
way,
is
my wife
absolutely
came
a
home
little guy.
while we were streaming, and so there was just somebody standing in my doorway I didn't know was there. So
Luckily, she's out of frame.
Yes, she is. I thought about that earlier, but I had the door open because we had windows open,
Yeah.
and I forgot to close it. So
Also, I will say,
she
we're
didn't
not
know.
hitting a bell curve. We're like just making a huge block.
Are we?
Yeah,
I am trying not to look. I'm just reacting here.
you're good. But yeah, I
so
think Weird
we
Al
are.
Guy,
Wow.
we've hit it, if not every show, with almost every show.
Yes.
Because it's great. Everybody loves the Weird Little Guy.
Yeah. Easily.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are.
Blood.
Yeah.
Next trope,
I
Weird Little
do
Guy.
Yay.
Yep. So I think we need to start moving a little bit faster. We've spent almost an hour on this so far, and we're halfway done.
We're more than half. We're
Yeah.
'cause it was almost 3 rows
Sort of.
before.
It's 2.5 rows, and we're a little over 1 on the original.
But
So
yeah,
I would still say halfway.
Kidnapped Family.
Kidnapped family.
I mean, it's also very boring.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's great in very established games, but like usually it's backstory. Once again, it's sort of this hidden backstory of like you don't know my family, but all of a sudden these people you don't know that you don't care about are the main focus of everything. Yeah.
This next one, I don't even know. It's the Knight in Sour Armor.
I think that is supposed to be like grumpy, like the unhappy mercenary that's coming along to do the right thing, but they're always grumpy and upset about it.
See, here's why I question that. Because the next one after that is the Reluctant Hero.
The next one after that is I do think those are different. I think those are different. The Reluctant Hero is the hero that got swept up in things that didn't know they didn't mean to become a hero and is now a hero. The Grumpy Knight or this Knight in Sour Armor is one who is negative about everything.
Okay.
But is there for the right reason.
I do see a distinction. And honestly,
not a ton, but
I do like them both.
Really?
I think if played well, both can be really good. I will admit, Knight in Sour Armor has a tendency to be played poorly and just be a really grumpy, shitty person at the table. But as long as they're playing with the buy-in of like, I'm going to be a grump and a bit of a sourpuss, but I'm going to go with whatever the party wants to do. That's fine.
And I specifically had to change Nash a little bit in the early days of breaking character because Nash was effectively a Knight in Sour Armor, where everything the party wanted to do, Nash was like, no, that's a bad idea. I don't like that. I don't know, right? Like, and I had to be like, okay, well, everything is Nash's no, and everybody else is yes. This is gonna be a problem. And it was annoying to always be the no guy.
All right, I'm going to throw Knight in Sour Armor as potentially problematic because I think it can be done well. And then Reluctant Hero, easy to love.
I think it's neutral to easy to love. Yeah.
Blood?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the middle with that one too because it's a man. It's good.
Fair. Next is mommy or daddy issues.
I'll let the two of you take the lead on this one.
I have a great relationship with both my parents. All I had to do was not talk to them for 5 years.
Anyway, I swear to God, did you just?
I think this one has a tendency to go towards edgelord, and like that sort of negative personality aspect.
See, and I find that it tends to go, well, and maybe this is a recency bias on me, but I also find that it tends to swing horny bard too.
Well, and we've got both of those in the very bottom tier.
Yeah.
Although I will say, we had an edgelord in the Vitan Octet with daddy issues. which was
Yes.
Darkness's character.
I don't know if we can put Tia as an edgelord because she was an edgelord. She was very open with her history,
She-
and she was
she
very
was
happy.
like-
Yeah, but
she was like
everything she was
bubblegum
bright
goth.
and happy
That's
about
different.
was horrifying and depressing.
So she was this interesting combo, I think, between a sort of happy, chipper, weird little guy who is also an edgelord, and I think that really was a fun combo.
That
to
is
play
part
with.
of what made it work so well. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
This right down here, NPC betrayal.
That's all finding things that we can like sprinkle edgelord over and it be okay, but edgelord on its own is not okay.
Yeah,
I think NPC betrayal is possibly problematic.
really.
Personally, I would put it at neutral to possibly problematic, and here's why. It has gotten to a point in many of the games that I play that I have parties that go, we don't trust any of your NPCs ever because there's so many NPC betrayals
Yeah,
that now I can't get buy-in to an NPC who's offering something good. And
That's
I have to
fair.
sweeten the deal, and then the players go, this deal is too good.
I've had that complaint with mimics. I used them one time, and the party's
Yes.
like, never trust anything. Always check everything to see if it's a mimic. And so I could see that happening with NPC betrayal as well. So I think both.
I've
of
had
those,
it with parties that I don't do that to.
I think both of those have a thing of like, if you can do it well one time, cool. Otherwise, leave it alone.
To me, the fact that it is a trope is its own downfall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Because yes, you're right. As a one-off, amazing, so good.
I will say, counterpoint. If you're doing, say you're doing a sort of Firefly type group where you're a band of rogues, not the class, but like the archetype,
Yeah.
doing that sort of a thing, and NPC betrayal being a regular thing fits the story. We keep trying to make deals with people, and we're trying to do the right thing, and they keep fucking us over. But we're going to keep marching this line because it's the right line for us. So I think it
the
can play
issue-
out well in a story where it's made for it.
For me, the issue is that it prevents buy-in more often than it increases buy-in.
For sure.
So like, yeah, because if you have a group that is like fully bought into the thematic aspect of it, oh yeah, hell yeah.
Dope.
But I find it problem.
To invert that, NPC romance.
Yes, 100%.
I don't know about 100%, but it can be very good.
I think
and
that's
of
an
Well,
course-
easy
not
to
like
love.
100%, like one of the NPCs is being creepy to an NPC and shit, like, or the NPC is being creepy or whatever. But like, it's
yeah, we're talking consenting.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I think that's an easy to love. You get cool, good stories. You get all kinds of motivational things of like, oh, maybe this person is in trouble. Now the party can go help them. Or we're on downtime, and what's this player going to do? Like, there's so many things that opens up, just creatively for the story. I think it's great. Party betrayal,
Party
Like-
betrayal.
like a party member fucks over the party.
Yeah.
that is potentially problematic just because it could be some asshole player. But if it is one discussed first, even in the most vague terms, it could be nifty.
What I will say is, once again, this is something we've done, but I think despite that, it's a no. It's a straight out. I think
I'm
80
with
to
Tony on that one.
99% of the time, it is a problem. It is difficult. It is bad.
Well, and
Yeah.
even so, we've technically done this twice, and the second one being Vampire the Masquerade, it was with the intent that it was a short run thing, and it was to get that real quick yank of the rug, and then the long term gain would not be related to that directly.
Yeah.
And then the first time we did it was actually with breaking character. But it was early enough in the characters getting to know each other that doesn't really read that same way, which is when Boston and Nash were going to collect on Rick.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't an established party, so
Right.
it doesn't read as party betrayal.
So I think those
Yeah.
two are really good examples of how you can do this and it be fine or even great. I do genuinely think, like, we've talked a lot about breaking character and stuff with that. I genuinely think that was one of my favorite aspects of that game was those interactions, especially very early on. And I think the important thing there was the openness at the table. At no point was I unaware of what Tony and Brett were talking about as Nash and Boston wanting to do. So I could play that innocence as an informed player.
Yeah.
Dope. Player romance.
As long as they're both consenting and it's okay and it's not creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Easy.
is a byline to everything we're doing here. Right?
Yeah.
Like that is literally tack that onto any of these, and it would be bad if people aren't consenting and whatnot, right? Yes, absolutely. PvP, I find outside of games that are specifically meant for PvP, right? Not interested.
I think it's potentially problematic to belongs in jail. I think it's on that border.
I could say potentially problematic.
It's not quite a jailable offense, but it does belong probably a problem.
I think it can be done right, especially as a short-term thing.
But there's a lot of steps you got to get through before it becomes.
Yeah, and
Do
you
that.
certainly don't want a party dynamic of constantly embittered battling characters.
Yeah.
Romancing the BBEG.
I mean,
I kind of love this one.
I kind of love this one too. It's, I don't know. I've never seen it done successfully though.
That's
That's
fair.
the other side of it. So I don't know completely.
What?
Go ahead, Blood.
No, I missed what we were talking about. Sorry.
Romancing the BBEG.
Love it.
In
It's
that case,
toxic, but I love it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it's one it's a bad relationship, but it's so good, and it leaves you wanting it to work out,
So much want to
knowing that it shouldn't.
I can fix him though.
This is an easy to love for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have to read this one. It's so fucking hard to read.
Surprisingly normal back.
Seeing each other's memories.
I personally adore the fuck out of that as a storytelling mechanic.
Yeah. I have not interacted with that enough that I would have thought of it as a TTRPG trope. Thoughts and feels, Tony?
I throw people into the dream world a lot, and they get stuck together.
Yeah, there is. I think, honestly, I think it's a fun way to build a bond between characters and show off, like unfiltered, unfettered, like bits. It can go problematic. I'm
Bright
sure.
is saying that it happened in Breaking Character. Not technically. What happened in Breaking Character was a dream sequence.
But it was Boston's memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was, but yeah, some of those dreams were Boston's memory. But yeah, I would say generally it's a really great way, especially when you have some of these other slightly difficult things like a hidden backstory and things like. I think it's a really great way to reveal that, and it adds a lot to those more problematic styles. And if you started, it is I think of it as an oh shit maneuver,
Mhm.
right? It is, we have to get these, you have 2 hours before the big battle, and I have to make sure these characters know everything and they're not talking. Right? Like, I think it's a really great break glass in case of emergency tool,
Sure.
if that
So
makes sense.
where would you both rank this one?
I like it. Not top tier, but I like it.
I think I have some notes. I don't think it is a tool in the toolbox for me, right?
Mhm.
Like,
That-
I think
that's
it's
how I
very
was
much
feeling about
dependent.
it.
Okay.
The surprisingly normal backstory. Tony, tell us about Jim.
It's
I
fine.
think it's fun. I think it's a fun twist, especially if you're in a group where everybody's got the expected traumatic or
Yeah.
weird or crazy backstories. I think it's really fun to be that guy who's like, I'm not. My family's fine. The farm is fine. I had a job. I've got a wife. She's happy with me doing this. I'm just here to have some fun.
Yeah. It's not bad. It to me is middle of the road. It's as middle of the road as you can get. It's a nice counterweight to a bunch of other things, but
Sure. Blood?
I mean, literally, I'm the one that helped him make Jim. So, like, yeah, very much. It's a tool. It's if your one player character doesn't want to have like an extravagant whatever background, that's completely fine. You don't have to.
Mhm.
You can have just a normal dude who kind of got pulled in a direction and was like, "Oh no, now I'm here. Guess I'll just keep going."
All right. Here's another one that it may be unheard of for our group, so we might have to go a little deeper on this one discussion wise. Have either of you ever played a game where the tavern exploded?
no.
Hmm.
I have played no, but I understand the trope, and we have
Tony.
all played in a game.
Your game is one where the tavern explodes.
Multiple times.
I wasn't counting that because it's not a tavern; it's a saloon. That's a technicality, and I understand where you're coming from. You're right. I was gonna say we've also played a different version of this where
the church
the church
exploded.
explodes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Again,
fine.
it feels kind of like just a tool. It's
Yeah.
a storytelling tool, very middle of the road. Not anything bad, not anything good.
Sure.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's oftentimes a crutch. And in fact, I will reveal I'm using it as such, because in the time loop game, the worst thing for us to do is have you guys to spend an hour of every session just bullshitting in the tavern before anything happens, or in the saloon before anything happens. So there has to be motivation to get the hell out of the starting location.
Fair.
And I was like, well, dying is a great motivation. So here we go.
This next one I really love, so I'm interested to hear your guys' points of view on it. Time travel.
I hate it.
Time loop master.
Time
I love
travel
it,
is complicated, though.
Not the way. So, like, if I was running a game that had a heavy time travel influence, I have very strong feelings on the way time travel will work, especially to the past, and so that would influence the way I was running it. Which is that one of the leading theories on if time travel to the past were possible, you couldn't change anything, because if you go back and do something, well, by the time you went back, that's what you did. You were back there. You did that thing. So you get a stable time loop. And so I think it makes for a creative story. And to clarify, we as a whole, speaking for the channel, are very much against JK and the books that she wrote and the problematic person that she is. However, Prisoner of Azkaban has a really good display of that type of time travel. And you can make a really cool story out of it.
The difficulty with time travel, and yeah, to a point, the difficulty with time travel once again is wiping out the situations that sent you back in the time travel, like the instability of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, as a trope, it's a little rough.
Totally fair.
And it almost falls into the fated destiny pretty much always, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're here because you did the thing, but you did the thing so you can be here. Like,
there's also the inverse of it, because this is not specifying direction. There's also the jump forward.
there is, yeah. And that I think can be really interesting.
Blood, how you feeling about this?
Time travel is such a complicated thing, and I overwork my brain already on campaigns. I don't want to have to deal with timelines too.
That's fair. I'm going to drop that and have some notes then. B tier.
I could see that, yeah.
It's a tool that can be used. The person running the game has to be willing to be like the one doing a lot of the hard thinking on it.
Yeah.
I think that's
It requires lots of GM backflips.
Yep.
Uh,
Next up is this one can be really divisive. TPK.
Give me 14 of them right now. I'm just kidding.
I think,
But I am canonically by far the person who has TPK'd the most times
When he
on
keeps
stream.
a lot.
so I as a DM love the idea of killing players, specifically killing characters, not players, and even the idea of a TPK, as long as it fits the narrative and there's buy-in.
I think killing characters, fine. Total party kill tends to be an end to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And with restraint, I find it okay.
I have only ever run a single TPK.
Well,
I don't think I have TPK'd my character. No, correction. I have TPK'd my players.
So
yeah.
I'm going to tell this story because it looks bad for my family and I love that. I was running a D&D game for my family. It was a home game. I taught my parent and my siblings, and we were playing, and I was running it. And the issue is, my mom was really struggling with D&D. She loved combat because it had structure and rigid rules, and at this point, you can do this, this, or this, and then that's your turn. But she didn't like running combat-heavy sessions because she wanted to experience more of the game. But she hated RP because there wasn't structure and rules telling her what she could and couldn't do. So she was miserable with the game, and that was making everybody else miserable with the game. And I had already laid a bunch of clues that what they were building towards was going to be a fight with a Tarrasque. So, I texted the group live in a session while they were still like 5th level. Like, hey guys, how are we feeling? We can end it here. I can give us a way out. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. So I threw a Tarrasque at a party of level 5 characters. And everybody just kind of like no efforted it and died really quick, except my mom, who was playing a druid and really, really fought it and really went hard and genuinely kind of fucked up that Tarrasque before she died.
Druids are fucking power bombs. I love them.
My mom playing a solo 5th level character almost did it.
That's hilarious.
Which was awesome, and it gave us a really cool high point for the end of that campaign. So yeah, I think it can be really cool with the right buy-in and everybody going on. I think it can be really bad. I think you hear a lot of toxic GM stories about TPKs. And because it swings so wildly, I think this one's got to be middle of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's either middle of the road or potentially problematic. I could see it like, but yeah, I think because it's used so sparingly, I think I have some notes as a good place for it.
Mm-hmm. And then the very last one, the Veteran Adventurer.
Honestly, I'm a huge fan of this one.
Mm-hmm.
When I am a player who, especially in my early days in this game, right? When I was a teenager and I was, one or two people in our group had ever played tabletop RPGs, and we were running through like basic adventures. I would create a high wisdom character who was a veteran adventurer who could say, "Hey, watch out. When you're headed into caves, they're oftentimes trapped," and I would give guidance to the group through that and help them along, and it was a support character. It was playing support for me. So I have a big spot in my heart for this.
I also really love the Veteran Adventurer. And in particular, I think one of my favorite character archetypes is what you get when you combine the Veteran Adventurer with the Knight in Sour Armor and the Reluctant Hero. You get the sort of old, grumpy mentor type who doesn't really want to be there, but kind of has to be, and doesn't want to show that he cares about the party, but he absolutely fucking loves them. And he wants them to leave him alone, is what he wants them to think, but he will also, like, go to bat and fucking die for them. For me, I think that's greatest of all time, personally.
Yeah, I could go down with that.
Blood?
I have seen too many people use this archetype as I know everything, even though I'm a level fucking 2 character. So I have a bitter point about it.
Sure.
But I do understand that that's probably just the tables that I was at when I was first coming into D&D.
Well,
yeah, maybe
I'll
you should
go ahead and pull it
play
down.
games with different people. Maybe the people you're playing games with are terrible.
I will say, if I have a player that wants to run this archetype at a table, one, I'm going to talk to the whole party about it, because it needs to be discussed. And two, I think that player should be a significantly higher level relative. So if you're starting at first level, and you've got a player that wants to be the veteran adventurer, I think having them be 5th level is fine. It means you can put the party with more challenging fights, which then makes it feel much scarier and more risky for the lower level characters, who are then being led by this guy, and he's protecting them and helping them through. There's also the inverse of that, where he's so high level and you're not sure how it's going to work out, and then he just dies in session 2. Kind of like Bertrand in campaign 3 of Critical Role.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is it. That's what we got. That's our tier list for TTRPG tropes.
We didn't mean to do this, but it's funny. Halfway through, you called out that we did not have a bell curve,
and we now have a bell curve.
Now we have a massive bell curve.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, we did not try for that. I want to state that here now. It is funny to me how that happened.
Yeah, when I called it out, we had like just this solid block of like everything was out to about 4.
It was a perfect Tetris board.
Yeah, and then we just started with the yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring it here to our end screen, and thank you all for joining us. That has been Tony Will Edit, and we've also got
Hell yeah.
Blood Aurora here today. I'm Sanguine Rev. Thank you for your patience with us this week, and we all look forward to seeing you next week, where we will be coming back with potentially the last episode of the mini-series That is the Weird West game that we're playing in Tony's stream, and
Hey, Fran,
that's the one.
real quick,
Yes.
It's not the last
because
episode.
I'm looking at our schedule here, and we have some, I think, a little bit of dyslexia going on.
Sure.
On the Wonderarium. Because 12:30 a.m. is 30 minutes after midnight.
Yep.
And we do not air at 30 minutes after midnight. We are at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Well, I've shared this calendar with you many times, and nobody says anything until I'm live on the air.
Sorry, but I did want to note it for people as I'm seeing this. I have
Midnight
looked at this
Eastern.
previously.
Right? I don't want to hear it.
Tuesday is spelled.
Tuesdays-
Nothing happens on Tuesday. It doesn't matter.
It's
Also-
amazing.
I like it with an E. Shut up! We'll see you next Wednesday as we play Cowgirls and we die a lot. And then we'll see you on Thursday where we play Space Cowgirls and we die a lot. And then someone will see you on Saturday where they're playing... I don't fucking know, but it's going to be
we
great.
are
You should
playing
watch it.
Ghost Fi and eulogizing dead people. So, you know.
Ghost Cowgirls.
Is it Cowgirls right now?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, to be fair, Borderlands has a sort of like cowboy aesthetic to it, and then the Wednesday night show, it just fit. And then we will see you a week from now on the next episode of Spawn Camp. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. You have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Tony